The Chinese are happy with the weaker yuan. It seems the US and Jack Lew is happy with China's stance here. Other than disappointing data, first domestic bond default, what's going on here?
Well, I think that it's becoming increasingly clear that China is going to have a very difficult job of rebalancing its economy. You mentioned the domestic bond defaults. There's going to be a painful shrinkage of shadows of China's massive shadow banking sector. We've got a peak in some of these trust product maturities over the sort of May-June period, which is going to keep everybody guessing. And yeah, I think it's actually going to be a rough ride. And it's interesting to see, you know, given the increased flexibility in the exchange rate in China, investors are actually pushing it lower against the consensus of a ever stronger yuan.
Yep. All right. Looking at the Asian markets in general, the equity markets, they seem to have found a footing today post Yellen's comments. Do we find comfort in their ability to bounce back, or do we worry about their ability or their ease with which they bounce back?
Well, it's interesting because one of the impacts of QE in terms of the liquidity in Asia is very much in Asia ex-Japan equity, and whereas Japan supplying liquidity to Asia is largely through the bond market. But I think, yes, I think the market in general is getting its head around Yellen's comments, and also think recent comments from Governor Kuroda in Japan, so that he would not hesitate to add stimulus if it looked like CPI was falling once again in Japan, to add stimulus. I think that's also helped to boost Asian markets over the last 24 hours.
All right, quick final word on the UK. You know, a couple of days after the budget, the OBR forecasts look pretty good. I saw these comments, though, that the next chief executive, Lord Wolfson, and I know he's quite close to the Chancellor. I believe he's married to Osborne's advisor. He's warned that the UK economy can't bank on sustainable growth, that we're not sure which way this economy is going to go. Now, this from the chief executive of a very successful retail chain is worrying, no?
It is, and George Osborne himself, of course, mentioned the unbalanced nature of UK growth and the need to rebalance. It's interesting to see, actually, within the OBR forecast that they're not expecting any net contribution over the next 5 years to the UK economy from net exports, for instance. So, you know, the question has to be asked is what's going to take up the slack from a consumer which can't continue to dissave, and from a shrinking public sector. And the answer to that is investment. Investment is where that growth needs to come from.